Welcome to the Propertybuyer Podcast, where we explore the world of residential and commercial real estate to help you make better decisions about buying, selling, or investing in all types of property. Join me, Rich Harvey, CEO of Propertybuyer.com.au and multi-award-winning buyer's advocate. Our podcast features expert interviews, market trends and insights, and practical tips for navigating the complex world of Australian real estate. Whether you're a home buyer, a seasoned property investor, commercial buyer, developer, or simply curious about the property market, our podcast is for you. Join us as we share our knowledge, strategies, and experience and help you achieve your property goals. Welcome to our next edition of the Propertybuyer Podcast. When you hear the words Sydney's upper and lower North Shore, we typically think of the broad tree-lined streets full of jacarandas, exclusive private schools, luxury mansions with impressive street frontages in suburbs like Wahroonga, Warrawee, Pymble, Roseville and Lindfield. These Sydney suburbs are highly sought after and turnover is relatively low, which means there's strong competition amongst buyers. It's an area that families find their dream homes and settle for often over 30 years until the kids leave home. So what makes this market so attractive? Who's moving in and who's moving out? And what trends are we seeing in the buyer pool? And how do you find good quality homes in such tightly held markets? Well, to answer these and many more questions, today we have Matthew Bourn, Managing Director of McConnell Bourn, to provide some sage insights into this North Shore market. Welcome, Matthew. Great to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks, Rich. Glad to be here.
So we have a little tradition when we start our podcast, and I throw you a thought of the week. Just want to get your spin on this one. And this week it is from Martha Beck, who says, "The way we do anything is the way we do everything." What do you take from that quote?
I would say, Rich, that how we do anything is from the person on the outside looking in, is then the perception of how we do everything we do. So really, I think that we've got to be in our best behaviour at all times, but I think our behaviours and our actions at the end of the day, in anything we do, is really what is perceived from everything we do.
Excellent, yeah. I mean, it's a bit like, the way we make our toast, the way we make our bed, the way we answer the phone.
Exactly.
You can get little insights into people. I think it's very much about habits. I mean, I read a great book a few years ago called Atomic Habits.
Funny that, yeah.
Brilliant book, and I think this quote speaks to that. In the way you approach anything is how you value that. A lot of people are carefree, other people are meticulous and OCD, and there's lots of people in between, right?
Absolutely,
So,
yeah. Well, I think you're right, and when you talk about habits, it's habits of open homes and listing presentations, buyer management work, whatever we do.
Yeah.
We are habitual beasts and creatures, I guess, in one sense.
My view is good habits will set you free. So
Absolutely.
There we go. Well, let's get into it. A couple of questions for you. How did you first get into real estate? What was your first job like in real estate?
So that's going back a while. So 1994.
Yeah.
Got very interested in architecture. In fact, I probably should have been an architect, I think, going back, looking at it.
It's a good marriage, isn't it, with real estate and architecture?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So I was very fascinated by property, and especially architecture, and I think the area here, I grew up in St Ives, knew the area very well, and I think so I went for jobs right across Sydney and could have worked in Randwick, ended up here in sunny Lindfield, working in a franchise group then, Richardson and Wrench. Great job, great people who own the business, and I was just attracted to the architecture to the area. Just thought it was beautiful and just loved looking at property. I think it gets into your blood. It's a passion.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it's funny enough. I grew up in Lindfield myself, just down the road in East Lindfield, and went to Clara High, so know the area very well. Lots of friends in Clara and St Ives when I was in my teenage years, so I know it very much like you. And like you, same thing. I really fell in love with property, and I really wanted to work on the buy side, and that's why I created my company. But tell me more about your business in particular. What suburbs do you cover, and I guess what areas you've got coverage over?
Yeah, predominantly. When we first started out, we were very much just a one-office situation, and we were based here in Lindfield, so we were Lindfield, Clara, Roseville and Gordon, I guess. And then we did expand, and we ended up in Wahroonga and St Ives and Gordon. And I guess we've done a complete reverse of all that and come back to the one-office scenario. It's funny, through my career now and talking to many, many people who have had many, many multiple offices, a lot of them just circle back to the one office. And as this industry's progressed, we've become more digital, we don't need to be on the street corners, etc. So the business started out in 2000 was 2000 as a property management business effectively. I was still contracting to the sales of R&W. Then I took that leap of faith and I ran this business out of my third bedroom for about a year.
Good on you.
Yeah, quite peculiar. Went into a serviced office, then went into a shop front, and then we started, about 2004, started to grow from that point onwards.
Brilliant, yeah. And how was COVID? Did you have multiple offices before COVID and then come back here more recently and consolidate?
Yeah, we had 3 offices pre-COVID. Went into COVID, that was obviously a very challenging time. But realised, I guess, with tech and digital platforms, etc., that we probably didn't need all those offices. So we centralised back to one office.
It's interesting, I walk around lots of different cities and I, you don't see as many window shop fronts of real estate. The traditional just a printed colour sheet of the property for sale versus the digital display. I mean, so much more is digital these days.
Absolutely.
So it makes a lot more sense.
I've even noticed recently with some changing of brands around here that they've actually taken the window displays out.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And we've gone from a shop corner to an office.
Yeah, and you're on the first floor here. Yeah,
exactly.
So, and how many agents have you got in the team?
Right now we've got 5 of us. So again, we got up as big as 25. We've had some changes over the last 12 months. We've actually consolidated that back to 5 people.
Awesome.
So we're now focusing on productivity, very personalised service, boutique, family owned.
Perfect.
And it's working really well for us.
That's great. Well, you've certainly got a good name in the industry. So. Tell me more about the unique and defining features of the Upper and North Shore property market. Like it is a really unique market in Sydney, right?
It is.
And it's, as I said in my introduction, you've got the wide streets. But tell me in your mind, what do you think are the unique and defining features of this market?
What's interesting, going back 30 years of being in this marketplace and watching through more difficult times, what markets actually have done around Sydney. And this has been a market that really holds firm and tight, and probably one of the markets that doesn't see as bigger fluctuations that I would say other markets do. Main reason being, obviously, the private school belt. I mean, we always say it. We sound like we're recording ourselves the whole time. Private schools, transportation, and just the environment is first class. So, from Lindfield, you're 23 minutes to the city by train. You've got all the best schools up and down the North Shore line here. And just look around at the leafiness of the area.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, sporting fields, national parks, access to the CBD, North Coast, South Coast, it's all here.
Yeah, it is funnily enough centralised. I mean,
it is.
The Pacific Highway, which is a bit of a car park some days, but the train line all follow the ridge line. So you've got properties to the east and the west, right?
Absolutely.
And tell me, do you see much difference in, I guess, the property market on the eastern side of the line versus the western side of the line?
Less and less we're seeing that issue.
Okay.
If I go back 20, 25 years, yes, it was this big discrepancy between east side property and west side property. The values that is, so you could be up as 25, 30% variance, but I'm seeing that now we're actually...
It's merging.
Wow,
very
much is. A lot of people came to the conclusion, I think, on the east side becomes very busy. It's, people are darting through the streets, getting to the train stations, trying to get to the schools, etc. And then the west side was a lot quieter. Then I guess the M2, M7 opened up. A lot of business headed towards North Ryde and Norwest. Especially the demographics we've had here of, let's say, the medical fraternity. They didn't want to be crossing over the highway, so they started to opt for the other side of the highway to have better accessibility to those, to where they work.
Yeah, okay.
So that was fascinating to watch.
One of the unique and defining features for me is the larger block sizes. I mean, you often find families with 3, 4, or 5 kids. I mean, you don't get me 5-kid families these days, but you still do. They just want that space. They want the backyard cricket. They want the pool. They want the cabana. And I think the North Shore offers that in spades. You certainly got to pay a price for it, but as you described, the leafiness, the bush, and it's just that naturalness that you can be, as you say, 30 minutes from the city, but feel like you're surrounded by bushland. It's quite amazing.
Totally, and I guess, not living on top of each other. So the average block is 1,000 square metres. We're not on top of each other, but you're right. When you come back out to the North Shore from the CBD, for instance, then you feel like you're a little bit on holidays.
Some people find it a bit too quiet. Some clients of ours, they really love the inner west where the vibe, or they love the punchiness of the eastern suburbs and the sort of the go. But other people prefer that leafy environment.
Well, they do, yeah. We did find that very much. People coming here and going, there's nothing here.
Well, each to their own.
That's it.
Tell me, how would you describe the state of the property market last year in 2023? How would you look back over the last 12 months? What sort of descriptors would you give it?
Difficult market. Like the year before, we found the fourth quarter in the year very challenging. We found the beginning, putting into stages, I guess the beginning part of the market of the year, first, second quarter wasn't too bad. Third quarter, we started to see a little bit of shakiness, and I think the interest rates were starting to really catch up with us at that point in time. Fourth quarter, we saw a lot of buyer fatigue. We saw the interest rate rise in November. I think a lot of people sort of sat back and said, let's just wait and see. So for 2023 and even 2022, we found the fourth quarter very challenging. But overall, and I think there was an adjustment period there where coming out of COVID, there were property owners that still had in their mind the values of what were through COVID, and there needed to be some adjustment here and there going through. It took a bit of time to wash through though.
Interesting. And looking ahead, you know, we're now recording this at the beginning of February 2024. What's your outlook for the year ahead? Are the vendors still nervous to list, or are they thinking, you know what, let's just go ahead?
Look, like many, over all the years, we've only ever seen between 3 and 5% of the area actually sell, and it's diminished each year. So we are still seeing that supply factor really, really difficult. Well, and you would be aware that we just got this whole state government strategy that's just been put upon us, and there's a lot of people now asking questions about, okay, what does that mean? What is my property worth? How's it going to impact? Am I conservation? Am I heritage listed? Am I worth more as a residential property as a development site? A lot of those questions going on. But coming into the beginning of the year, I'm finding it buoyant. There's good buyer activity. I think people are confident now that we've got inflation under control. We've got interest rates going to be coming down. Migration is high. There's going to be demand coming into 2024 for sure. Early stages are saying good things.
I know you're not sitting in front of your computer, but do you know off the top of your head the average hold time for a property on the North Shore? Because you say it's getting diminishing, it's getting longer. I mean, it used to be, 12, 13, 14 years, but is it more than 15 years, do you think?
Oh, no, I think there was a period there where I think it dropped down to around 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
I would say now on average, it's probably that school, about that 12-year period of coming into education.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're buying in, kids are going through school and then we're getting out.
Yeah.
So I would say about the 12-year cycle.
I mean, we see a lot of downsizers selling their leafy Linfield homes, moving to Manly, you know, or the beaches somewhere. So there's a lot of that going on as well.
Very much.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about interest rates, and I think that's certainly been holding buyers back. And I think this year, I put out in my predictions that I think that there's talk now of interest rate cuts. I'm predicting a cut in either July or August. I think that'll be the first cut. Some are saying it's going to be later. But I think the cuts are going to need to come then to stimulate the economy. I think people are feeling a lot of pain. Everyone I talk to is so conscious of cost of living.
Absolutely.
Everyone is being frugal, not taking as many holidays, not eating out as much. So I think even at the higher end of town, people are sort of being a bit cautious.
Correct.
So I think that's holding buyers back. Is there anything else you think is holding the buyers back at the moment?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Interest rates, whilst, you know, a lot of people, it doesn't get spoken about too much, I think, in certain circles. I do believe they're biting. I do believe that there's not as larger bonuses being rolled out through certain industries, let's say, that they used to. So I think, look, 13 interest rate rises. Historically, our interest rates are probably not that bad, historically, but people are hurting. Everybody are.
It's interesting. I mean, interest rates used to be around, 3.5%, 4%, which meant about a 6% mortgage rate, which we're at 6.5% roughly now. Exactly. So maybe we're 0.5 to 1% above where it should be. And it's just going through those cycles, and it's got to wash through.
It does, but but also, when you get down to 0.1% interest rate and you're sitting there at a 2% or 3% interest rate, it's like, well, that's what you get used to really fast.
Exactly. I was very happy at that rate.
Me too. And you adjust your lifestyle accordingly.
That's right.
And then when things do pop up, you go, oh, hang on.
That's right.
Makes it difficult.
You've got to keep paying the mortgage down.
That's it.
Yeah, interesting. Tell me about some of the trends you might be seeing on the upper and lower North Shore. I mean, they're two distinct markets, right? So actually, where do you draw the line for the upper and lower North Shore?
Look, Roseville is probably our line in the sand. Go north of Roseville.
So particularly the upper North Shore then. What trends are you seeing in that market?
Look, obviously heavily Chinese, Asian influence coming in, buyers coming in. Now, a lot of them, if you listen to the media, there's a lot of mainland China money coming in, but in reality, majority of our buyers are they're Australian-born Chinese, and they are upsizing from their current property. It could be an apartment in Pyrmont, it could be a house in Hurstville, but they're looking to get up here purely for their education reasons. So they're born and raised here, they've been to university here, their English is just as good as yours and mine. Now, maybe sometimes they're being helped by mum and dad who perhaps are overseas. But we are seeing this, I'd say 70% of our buyers certainly have an Asian surname.
We really appreciate you tuning in to the Property Buyer Podcast, and I hope that you're finding our expert interviews helpful. So that we can keep providing this information and growing our audience, we rely on word of mouth recommendations. If you found this information useful, could I please ask you to share this podcast with your friends, family and colleagues and ask them to subscribe to the Property Buyer Podcast. It would be a big help and we'd be very grateful for your support. Thanks once again for sharing the links. And now let's get back to the podcast.
So that's very much a growing trend.
Yeah, cool. And I mean, there are more units that we're seeing appearing on the Pacific Highway.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that more in a minute, but obviously probably what percentage of stock would be houses versus apartments and townhouses?
It'd be a 70-30 split,
Okay.
I would say, between houses and that sort of medium density accommodation.
Okay. But obviously, as you say, it's the people coming, the Asian buyers particularly. It's also families wanting to get their forever home to raise their kids.
Correct.
So houses are obviously very, very high demand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big homes, the tennis court properties, very much in demand.
Yep. They're diminishing though, but
They are.
after the Australian Open, they should be in high demand, right?
They should be very much in demand.
But
they're still very well sought after, and I think there's been a huge growth in that market over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. The exponential growth in value. I think tennis courts at one point in time, I think that the value diminished a little bit, but they certainly bounced back.
I used to love going to my friend's place and Mum and Dad have got a tennis court so we can play tennis. It was always a great thing to do. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I guess tell me more about where the buyers are coming from. Like, are they coming more from within the North Shore or from the eastern suburbs or the inner west or from other states? Tell me where they're generally coming from, do you think?
Our stats have shown around 70% of them are coming from the Ku-ring-gai, or we say the Ku-ring-gai or Willoughby marketplace, or council areas. That's predominantly where we see most of our buyers come from. Outside of that, certainly I would say the Hills District coming into the area for the transportation, even though their transport links are getting better. Education and transport closer to the CBD. So Castle Hill, Borkham Hills, Cherrybrook, those areas coming in here, definitely. Rarely do we see the east come to the north. The east stays in the east, the north stays in the north. And then typically in the west, we would see come through here.
Okay.
And I guess an area we do at CBD in Hurstville, but if I was to really lay down and say it, local buyers 70%, Hills District, inner west, and then CBD.
So, I mean, the word aspirational buyer comes to mind because I often think of someone, say, living in Castle Hill or Kellyville, like they're probably living in a $2 million home, but to then move to Linfield or Roseville, where your median's 3.5 or more. They need to have a big step up. So are you seeing much of that happening?
It's a big upgrade for sure. Yeah, we do see. We recently sold a house for $4.5 million, and I know the buyers of that property sold for 2.65. So there's a $2 million upgrade.
Yeah.
So we do see that happening regularly.
Okay. So bring your checkbook is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about pricing on the North Shore, because I think that's what our listeners would like to know. Tell me, let's sort of unpack the market a bit here. What's an entry-level house going to cost? So something that, just to get your toe in the market, might be on the Pacific Highway, might be run down. What's sort of the lowest priced home you've seen sold in the last couple of years?
Your basic 12 square, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom property house, that is. I guess there's two different markets, Kalara, Linfield, Roseville. So this side of Motorvale Road, we always look at it. Rosewood and Motorvale Road, you would say it's probably around the high twos.
Gotcha.
2.7, 2.8. We've seen one or two down around 2.450, 2.5. Seldom do we see that though. We've got north of Motorvale Road, and you can see more transactions around the earlier twos. So really, I think to get into the area, you're looking early twos. 2 to 2.2.
So is that like West Pymble, South Turramurra, that sort of area where it's
go a
sort of
little bit
down to
further
the
north.
valleys a little bit, Comonara Parkway, where it's a little bit cheaper?
Absolutely, down behind the San Hospital, those areas for sure.
Steep blocks in Marunga.
That's it. Yeah, so
I know it well.
Yeah, you've been there.
I've been there.
So but that's sort of the entry point now.
Okay. So tell me about the midpoint of the market. So what do I need to spend to get not a top line home, but a mid quality 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car home in a reasonable area?
4 to 4.5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's jumped up. Well, actually, I'll correct that. You can get in probably at the moment for around 3.5 to 3.8, or say 3.5 to 4. You'll probably need to do a little bit of work to that property. If you want something you can pretty much move into, you're going to be north of $4 million.
Okay. And talk to me about the top end of the market. I know there's a big range and how long's a piece of string, but give me some examples of some recent prices that have been paid in, say, Linfield versus Kalara versus Marunga. Because there's lots. I mean, I know there's lots of samples out there, but just give me that sort of a feel.
So top end prices have been about, without tennis courts, been bouncing around that sort of $7 to $9 million mark. That's in the Linfield, Clara, Roseville market. As far as tennis court properties, you can go as high up as 19, which has been the highest sale price in Clara recent time. Jump over Manavar Road, again similar in the sense of new homes, $6-7 million. Lovely character homes with good locations can be 7 to 9, and there's been up to 20 for a high-end property, 3,000 plus square metres. Beautiful home in Warrawee. So yeah,
I've actually been through that home. I was going to bring it up. Yes,
yeah. So
I actually know the owner, and that property that sold for, what was the price? 20.5. Unbelievable. It was on a double block, right?
It was,
but 7-car garage, just absolutely immaculate. I mean, it was just a phenomenal home. Absolutely beautiful.
You come around the corner into Cherry Street, there was one for 16, but that was, again, another a beautiful double-storey character home, tennis court at the front, beautiful street frontage, 16 there. And then around the corner there, I won't boast, but my own home sold for in Hastings Road for over $8 million. So there's some pretty big numbers going around, but they are beautiful locations. They're highly renovated homes. And great land size.
How controversial is the heritage issue across the North Shore? A lot of people coming in wanting to obliterate, donate and rebuild. I mean, how much heritage overlay is in the area that's a problem for people?
It's not a massive overlay. There's two sides. There's a conservation area, which stops you from really doing anything with the properties, which is like a cloud that sits really 300 to 400 metres from the train line either side of the highway, in some cases, mainly east side. Then you've got the heritage listed properties. Now, heritage listed, there's not a massive amount of those properties, but they're dotted in superior streets and superior locations. Now, we saw them. All right, for instance, we just sold a house in Linfield that was a heritage conservation area. It was a regional home. It was on a corner block and it had some trees in the backyard that were tough to get rid of. And it scared a lot of the buyers off. It came down to a local Australian buyer who understood the process of how to renovate those sort of homes. They bought that home from the Chinese community. They like to knock over and rebuild. They get very scared of that. And even high-end heritage properties, like these ones we were just recently talking about, they will buy those if they're done and they're ready to go. No problems whatsoever. But does it have an impact? It's understanding the heritage, the nature of a heritage property, and why is it a heritage property? Streetscape, is it something internally? Is it local? Is it state? You can usually get around it.
I think a lot of buyers I'm seeing these days don't want to go down the renovation path or even the rebuild path because construction costs have gone up astronomically over the last 3-4 years with COVID and all the logistics problems. So I definitely think we're seeing that. So how is that playing out in the market? What are you seeing out there? I mean, are you seeing a significant premium now paid for fully renovated homes? Or?
Correct. Absolutely.
Like how much more would you estimate? It's again a difficult question to answer.
Look, on rule of thumb, I would say that's gone up by 20%, 20 to 25% in recent years since COVID.
So that's an opportunity, I think, just again for the listeners here. I'm trying to uncover what do you think are the opportunities in the market, and if someone's a savvy buyer, they know they've got a good architect or a good builder or interior designer, and they can add value to a home. I'm always saying to people, buy properties with a twist. Buy something where you can add value because you can manufacture that equity, and if it's your own home, it's tax-free.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a great opportunity to buy.
I think the first point there is to get the right location, right orientation and aspect, and get a home that, you can always change the property. You can't change that location or aspect or northern orientation. So if you're savvy, you have a good, reliable builder, architect, and you're competent in that process, there's an add value proposition there for sure. Without a doubt.
Very good. And where are you seeing prices going? I mean, get your crystal ball out for me, Matt, and tell me, which suburb I should buy in to maximise my growth so I can retire next year. But no, look, let's talk about pricing. So 2024, we've had obviously COVID, there's come, we had a massive price rise, then we had a correction, we've had the interest rate rises. Where are prices going from here in 24 in the next 3 years, do you think?
I think we'll see growth, but we'll see modest growth. But modest. Yeah, when I say that, I think there's different bands of property values, and my guess is that up to $4 million will be very active. I think we'll see some high levels of competition around those properties. So you might be talking sort of 8-10% growth in that sort of sector. I think then when you go sort of 5 million plus in the higher end properties, I think we'll see more modest growth of probably 3 to 6%. But in a lot of cases, it can be very much property specific. So like you've seen that one in Warrawee for 20.5 million. smashed every record. And then there was another property here in Killara that you probably were aware of that sold for 16 and resold for 19. I think we worked out on that, they made $53,000 a week.
Yeah, beautiful.
In the ownership period, right?
Phenomenal.
Not a bad return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it is. Like I always say to people, just like you've said, you can't move the block of dirt. Once you've bought that location, it's the classic adage in real estate: location, location, location. Get that right, and that's the foundation for both raising your family, building wealth, and everything else around
Correct. it. Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
It's so important. So, and there's also parts within a suburb. I mean, obviously, there's what we call the golden triangle within a lot of suburbs, right? And I think you as a local agent certainly would know which pockets, and you can guide your buyers to that. Us as buyers agents, we absolutely know where to say to buyers, avoid that street, avoid that. Sure, you can buy there, but do you know that there's noisy neighbours, or you're going to get traffic noise, you're going to get train noise. You know, I mean, you just got to look anywhere along the Pacific Highway, right? Between the Pacific Highway and the train line, you look at the pricing of those properties, and they're always significantly lower than properties 100 metres away, right?
Correct. Yeah. So you're exactly right. You go down a particular street here where they're backing onto a train line. Yeah. You're 100 metres the other side, and there's $1 million difference. Yeah. 200%.
I mean, I bought a beautiful property just up the road here in Strickland Avenue a couple of years ago for a client. I think they paid 2.7 or 2.8. But a beautiful heritage home that had been renovated, but could also add some value, but had an awesome backyard. And they didn't mind. That was all they could afford. They didn't mind the train line was there because they could walk the kids to school. They could walk to the Linfield shops. It was absolutely perfect. And again, it was off market. I just knew the local agent really well and got the deal done. It was a great setup.
Well, you're coming off different bases. So if you're coming from baseline at Strickland Avenue, for instance, of a lesser entry point, and then down the road or across 100 metres down the road, it's $1 million high. You're just working in similar percentages. It's just coming off a different base.
That's right. So the other message I think for buyers is that, look, if you do want to get into the North Shore, you've got to buy a property that's going to fit within your budget. And as you say, you can then enjoy the capital growth ride relative to everything else that's going on as well.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about how you operate. How do you estimate when you've got a vendor looking to sell and you're about to sign up a listing? How do you tell them what their property's worth?
Tough one, isn't it? Because you know what? Often we get it wrong. Often we get it right.
Yeah.
A lot of this comes down to, Rich, in my opinion, is sometimes a gut feel. If you understand your buyer pool and who wants to buy and what they're really looking for, what will a buyer pay for this property? Comparables are always relevant, 200%, but then I do feel sometimes this comes down to a gut feel of actually understanding what people are looking for in a property and what they will possibly pay for a property like this. So now we used to track, and we still do track in the sense of what do we tell the client to what we got the client. Our accuracy levels, obviously they up and down a little bit, but most of the time we're pretty accurate in what we get. The interesting part about valuing a property is the aspirational price of what could you get if everything lines up on the day. And everyone, any property owner, myself included, wants to see that happen, wants to see that value come into play. But I think what we need to do is just be as sensible as we possibly can, giving them a very realistic number. This is a bankable figure that we can know that we can get 2 or 3 buyers interested in the property. Our ultimate goal here is to actually, what kind of uplift can we get by creating competition at the end of the day?
You use the word realistic, and that's really important for us. When we work with our clients, we actually track we do an appraisal when we've got a subject property that we're buying for our client, and we track what we've told the client versus what they ended up buying for it. And it's somewhere around 3 to 4% accuracy. So occasionally, during COVID, we got blown out of the water because people were paying 10, 20% above. It was ridiculous, right? Everyone just paid, because the interest rates were zero. But it's interesting you talk about realism, because it is really important, and we have a very honest conversation with our clients, because a lot of agents underquote, as you would know. They you're trying to create competition. You're on the selling side, we're on the buying side, and we're both professionals. We both come to the negotiating table with our hats on and swords drawn and whatever, but we're professional about it. But I think at the end of the day, having a realistic conversation with your vendors, I think is very important, just like we all have a realistic conversation with our buyers, and educate them as to what has recently transacted, even on a week-to-week basis. Last weekend, first week, auction week, how big were the numbers? It was amazing.
Oh, great.
Exactly.
But I think what's interesting there, Rich, is that the great thing about your side of the conversation is that you've got this one client and it's a one-on-one relationship. I guess when we go and look at property, to value a property, the client's getting four agents in, and you're going to have 4 very, very different valuations on that property. I won't say any more than that. And then the owner's going to have their own opinion based on what they've seen happening in the marketplace. So you're right, realism, and sometimes it's hard to and we've looked back on many times where we've lost business because of price, and then where did it end up selling?
Yeah, exactly where you said it.
Right in the zone.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Disappointing to say the least.
It
but
is,
yeah, realism is very much a conversation we like to have. It's not about blue sky pricing. It's about, okay, what do we realistic think in the current market we can get?
Yep.
Ultimately, the strategy, we're going to try and work and get the best possible outcome for you.
Exactly. Well, your job is to work for the vendor, and that's exactly what you've got to do. So talk to me about some suburbs that you might consider as undervalued at the moment, that represents good value compared to surrounding areas. Is there anything you'd highlight as an opportunity for the market?
Look, I think in Coringa, no. I think it's there's demand in every suburb for every type of reason.
Yeah.
I think if we've got to look more broader in Sydney. I think, look, if we go further north, perhaps and I think it's catching up pretty quickly though, the Thornlea, the Westleigh and the Hornsby Heights, Waitara markets, I think there's going to be a push further north into those markets because of, again, if you want to be within 30 minutes of the CBD, you're going to pay for it. If you're happy to go another 30 minutes out or another 15 minutes out in the train, there is better value property. And I think we'll see those will foster up.
It is interesting because I lived in Pennant Hills for a number of years when I was first married, and we lived in just about 5 minutes walk to the station, and I'd catch the train to the city, 42 minutes from Pennant Hills Station through Central and Express, and it was fine, it was great. But yet when I drove 10 minutes into Wahroonga for the same home, it was like $1.5 million more.
Oh, totally.
So you're absolutely right. That Thornlea, Westleigh, Pennant Hills area is definitely good value.
Yeah. What's really fascinating is that I've just recently bought in the Southern Highlands, so I'm tracking down there a little bit more these days. You go down that Hume Highway, and we were looking at property values at Menangle Park.
Yes.
$1.3 to $1.4 million for a house on 400 square metres of land, brand new, but it's Menangle Park.
It's a long way away.
Where the skydiving centre is, right? It's a long way out.
Yeah.
So you look at that and go, okay, well, gosh, Thornlea.
I know.
I just sold a house in Westleigh for just over $2.28 million.
Yeah.
It was a 4-bedroom home with a granny flat, 3-bedroom granny flat.
Yeah.
And the granny flat was getting $600 a week rent. And I'm thinking, this has got to be good value. I'm getting a $2,000 a month income comfortably over here.
Yeah.
I'm getting a 4-bedroom home with a pool here. 2.3 million bucks.
Yep.
That's got to go up in value.
Yeah, that's the ripple effect. Yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
it is.
Tell me about your experience in dealing with buyer's agents. How do you think the interaction differs from the experience in dealing with an ordinary buyer that's not represented by a buyer's agent? How does that work for you?
I think, Rich, like everything in life, in this industry, there's people you want to work with and people that you don't particularly want to work with. So for me, it's very much about the relationship with the buyer's agent and having an honest and trustworthy relationship that we can work with in that situation. So I enjoy it because I think there's transparency. You're quite upfront. You've done your due diligence. You know the market, and there's no BS there. Yeah, that's what I do like about it. Of course, you're trying to buy it for the least amount of money you can possibly buy it for. But I think in talking to buyers agents, the benefit of a buyer's agent, in my eyes, is number one, of course, market knowledge. Secondly, they're getting access to properties before the balance of the buyer pool can get access to it, and hopefully buying that property at a price that everyone's happy with and moving on. I don't think there's this thing about, I don't think in this market anyway specifically, you can get a bargain property. It's about, okay, how can we get a fair and reasonable outcome for all clients?
The problem with bargains is that they're probably going to be sold at a bargain, and there's a reason they're a bargain. It's probably next to the petrol station, or something wrong with it structurally. So exactly. I think you're right about one of the key benefits we bring is that sense of confidence that we bring to the transaction.
And certainty.
And absolutely getting a property that the client likes and wants and has been spending years trying to find. There it is with a lot less competition, if not no competition. And knowing they can secure it for that price that's been agreed and stacks up to the bank.
That's it.
It's certainly really important.
It's a growing, look, I think your side of the business is growing and it will grow, like they do in America, but in the US. But I think it's more and more people we're seeing are gravitating towards using people like yourself.
Talk to me about how the ordinary buyer treats the negotiation process with you, and what tips would you give to buyers in how they approach sales agents? Because a lot of buyers come in and go, I'm just going to lowball them, or I'm just going to give them a take it or leave it offer, or they've got particular ideas in their head and just don't like dealing with that. How do you advise an ordinary buyer deal with you?
Be honest with us. Don't work against us, work with us. I think you're right. There's this sort of school of thought of go low. It's almost a standoff sort of scenario. Work with us, not against us. Let us help you. Learn to trust us in what we're saying. And let's just work together to get this done. So my path with negotiation is very transparent, and trying to make the buyer feel at ease with the process, explaining the process of how we're going to do it, so everyone's got a fair and ample opportunity to buy the property. Yeah. But if they're trying to, how many times have they taken a step backwards, been trying to be coy or a little bit smart with their negotiations, and they've actually missed out on the property because they haven't been upfront with us and letting us know they really do like the home. They want to be part of this negotiation. So I'd say work with us, not against us.
Yeah, I mean, when I walk into a home and I know it's right for the client, I tell the client, the agent up front, hey, I'm actually really interested in this property. Yep. Keep me fully updated.
Totally.
Whereas a lot of buyers go, I'll just diss the agent, or I'll give them the cold shoulder and tell them I'm semi-interested. I mean, who are you going to ring back first, right? You're going to ring me.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly, yeah. So work with us. Let us know you like the property, you want to buy the property, include us in the negotiations.
And then I hear about buyers that are just disappointed. Oh, the agent never rang me back. I told him I was sort of interested. Well, are you interested or not?
Yeah, but what were you putting out there?
Did you
to
make
the
a
agent?
Formal offer?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Did you tell them? Keep me in touch.
What do you like about being a selling agent? What's the most rewarding thing you get from the profession?
Oh, look, I think everyone would say the journey of being a real estate agent, of helping someone buy a property. But look, I love property. I believe in property. I think it's a great asset class. And I like to see, people get into a home that they want to be in and make for their family for the next 5 or 10 or 15, whatever the time period is, but knowing that they're going to actually do well out of that property. Yeah, so it's that's probably the most satisfying part.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And AI has been talked about every day of the week at the moment, prop tech. Are you adopting any of this sort of AI technology in your business so you keep up with everything?
AI I think is a really a space that a lot of people don't understand at this point in time. Yeah, we are. Look, there's the likes of Rita and, ID for me, and which is probably not so much AI, but putting all these things together to getting all the information you require. Using ChatGPT, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, look, it's out there. Rich, I'm a firm believer this is a relationship game. The more people we pick up the phone and talk to and try and help, the better we'll be.
Yep.
Yeah. AI is going to be it'll be there in the background and help us get some information we require, but you cannot beat the one-on-one relationship with the client.
It's a bit like, I was just thinking of analogies you're talking, it's a bit like the washing machine, right? When it came out, who's actually going to physically get the clothes out of the washing machine and put them on the line to dry? I mean, yes, you can get a washer dryer, but it doesn't do it as well, right?
Yep.
So you can have all the best tech whiz gadgetry in the world in a washing machine, but someone physically has to get the t-shirt and put it on the line.
Exactly.
Right? So same with data, right?
Yeah.
You've got I think AI is great. We're using some pretty cool AI stuff in our business, and we've got some awesome data sets to help our investor clients at the moment. But at the same time, we have to help the clients interpret that. How do you apply that, and how do you use that to get a good result?
Correct.
And then it's about, as you say, it's so important to have relationships, and I guess that's one of our key value adds as a buyer's agency, our relationship with your agency, for example, to get access to off markets, and then knowing how to pitch an offer so you're going to say yes and encourage your vendor to say yes versus saying it's just a useless offer. Like, there's a huge difference in knowing how that works.
I think what I found in the last 6 months, I've never had so many people email or call me about AI.
Yeah.
How I can help the business with the AI, and it's I get it, but as you're right, using it for data sets and can it help us find the next seller? Yeah, sure, potentially. Yeah. But I need to build a relationship with that next seller to actually have a chance of listing that property, then to sell it to people like yourself.
Well, I'd certainly prioritise relationship building over AI any day of the week.
That's what we're doing.
So I've got 2 more questions for you. One is, what's been your most memorable, intriguing or interesting sale that you can cast your mind back to, and why was it intriguing?
Very, very good question. Look, I guess the most intriguing, or the fun sale, is when $800,000. In fact, one property, $2.4 million over reserve.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
This would have been back in about 2015, 2014-15. Roseville sale. For the owner, it was like literally winning the lottery.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, two buyers head to head, didn't want to miss out. In fact, one of the buyers had bought a winery that morning in the Hunter Valley. There was oodles of money flowing around.
Wow.
The $2.4 million over reserve was astronomical, beyond our wildest dreams.
Wow, that's insane.
So that's probably the most intriguing.
So one of the bidders just didn't want to lose face.
Wouldn't lose face.
Win it at any cost.
That's
wow.
it. That's it. And I've loved the property ever since.
It's good, still there.
Yeah,
obviously.
still there.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the most intriguing sales. And I guess, on the flip side is, sometimes you have sales where you're done your absolute best in negotiation and someone misses and isn't happy about it.
Yeah.
And, confronts you in those sort of situations. And you go, well, we're trying to do our best here. But the 2.4 wins.
There you go. And lastly, what would be your best property tip that you can share with our audience today?
Look, as a property seller, I think presentation is number one, and investing into the process is number two. Don't do it half-heartedly, do it fully. In the area we're talking, in the values that we're talking here, there's an exponential chance of a massive increase. You invest into the presentation, the marketing of the property. If you get the right person negotiating on your behalf, that investment over here will be 5 times comfortably over there.
Okay. So do you see people penny pinching on presentation and marketing and kind of said, I'll just spend $2,000 on tidying the yard up and that's about it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's penny pinching as much or having the energy to do it.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Well, I prefer not to have to do that if I don't have to.
And decluttering as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think they've got the money. We get access to the money through these, campaign agent and whatnot. We can easily get access to the money to make it happen. In the perfect world, I would say go and rent a 3-bedroom apartment, move into there, leave the house with us, strip it out, let's get it looking great. Because that can make a 10% difference in the outcome.
Depersonalise it,
absolutely.
Get the family photos off the wall. Yeah.
All that, paint it, carpet it, do what you've got to do to it. Fix up those things that needed fixing up for many, many years. And look, I sold my house last year, right? And we had a small flood in those floods back in 2022, and it sat there for 12 months. But as soon as I wanted to sell it, I could get it fixed in no time.
Yeah.
But I should have invested and done it earlier. But I would say, look, it's a valuable asset class.
Yeah.
Deeper, take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Get it looking great. Because you're in competition with other properties.
A quote I always hear is that you only get one chance to make a first impression.
That's
and
it.
I think if your job as a sales agent is to position the property in the right way, attract the right buyers to extract the best price.
That's it.
And I know I walk through hundreds of properties every month, and when I see one that sparkles, I go, wow, this is amazing. And it creates an emotion in me that makes me feel good.
It does.
Versus one that's cluttered and ugly and dirty and grimy.
Yeah.
It's just they just don't really have any care factor.
It doesn't make you feel good whatsoever.
So,
and it's first impressions count. How do you feel when you walk in that front door? Is this got the wow factor?
Yeah.
You're going, wow, this is a cool house. This is great. They love this house. So I think that's probably my tip.
Excellent. Well, Matt, thank you for sharing all your knowledge today.
welcome.
I'm getting a very good first impression that you run a great business.
We try.
That you build great rapport with your vendors and with your buyers, and it's been a pleasure to do business with you over the years. And just want to say thank you so much for sharing your time today. And
Not at all.
really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you again for listening to another edition of the Property Buyer Podcast. We look forward to connecting with you again next week. Thanks for being with us on another Property Buyer Podcast. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please click on the SpeakPipe link and we'll answer this during the next episode. If you're looking to buy a residential or commercial property in the near future and would like to get the added advantage of having a buyer's advocate on your side, then please reach out to my team today and send us your inquiry, and we'd be delighted to help. Please visit our website at propertybuyer.com.au, where you can stay updated with all my latest market updates, weekly blogs and live suburb profiles to help you make better property decisions. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next Property Buyer Podcast.